Your mind will either train you for strength or condition you for surrender. Written and published by Q-Vibe. What if the life you're living right now isn't limited by your circumstances, but by the way you've been trained to think? Imagine waking up every morning already feeling behind. Your body moves through routines you know too well. Your mind replays the same worries, the same doubts, the same unfinished conversations. You handle responsibilities, meet expectations, and keep going, but somewhere beneath all that motion, you sense a quiet frustration. You know you are capable of more, yet something invisible keeps pulling you back into old patterns. This is the tension many adults live with but rarely name. You want change, clarity, progress, yet your reactions keep running ahead of your intentions. Emotions decide before reason has a chance to speak. Old habits override new goals. You respond automatically instead of choosing deliberately. And over time, that gap between who you are and who you could be begins to hurt. Not loudly, but steadily. This book does not promise quick fixes or dramatic transformations. It offers something far more realistic and powerful. A way to retrain the mind so it no longer reacts blindly, but responds with strength, calm, and direction. A way to step out of mental autopilot and begin shaping your inner world with intention, discipline, and awareness. One choice at a time. So here is the challenge. Stay with this audiobook. Listen not for comfort, but for clarity. Ask yourself, where has reaction been running your life instead of response? If you continue, you won't just learn how to think differently. You will begin to live differently, with steadiness, self-control, and a sense that your mind finally works with you, not against you. Chapter 1. Make self-improvement a daily practice. If you don't take control of your mind, life will do it for you. And life has no interest in protecting your dreams. Life doesn't care about your potential. It doesn't pause to ask how hard you've tried or how much you've been through. It keeps moving, and if you leave your inner world unguarded, it will get filled with doubt, fear, and excuses without asking your permission. One bad experience becomes a label you wear for years. One setback turns into a story that you're not good enough. That's how negativity takes root. It doesn't kick the door down. It slips in quietly when you're tired, distracted, and running on autopilot. And if you don't confront it, it doesn't just sit there. It grows, it multiplies. It begins shaping your thoughts, your decisions, and the direction of your future, until you wake up one day and realize you've been living the same emotional day on repeat, wondering why nothing ever changes. But here's the truth that should relieve you, not shame you. Your mind isn't the enemy. The real problem is you haven't trained it to work for you instead of against you. If you want negative thinking to die, you don't fight it once in a while. You build a life where it can't thrive. That requires one thing: self-improvement as a daily practice. Not occasionally. Not when you feel motivated. Not when life is calm. Every single day, because your mind is like a muscle. If you don't train it, it gets weak, it gets lazy. And a lazy mind will always default to negativity, because negativity is effortless. It's the brain's oldest habit, scanning for danger, rehearsing worst-case scenarios, assuming defeat before you even try. So you cannot leave this to chance. You cannot hope that one day you'll magically think better thoughts and live a better life. Hope is not a strategy. Training is. You have to program your mind. You have to feed it the right things on purpose, daily, the same way you feed your body if you want it to function. And some people hear that and instantly complain. That sounds exhausting. I don't have time to improve myself every day. But be honest, you have time to scroll for hours. You have time to replay conversations in your head. You have time to stress about things you can't control. You have time to listen to people who complain like it's their full-time job. So, this isn't about time. It's about priorities. It's about what you keep choosing when nobody is watching. And if you don't prioritize your growth, who will? Nobody is coming to fix your mindset for you. No one is going to knock on your door and hand you discipline, clarity, and courage. That responsibility belongs to you, and that is not a burden. It's power. So where do you start? You start by paying attention to what goes into your mind. Most people have no idea how much negativity they consume every day. The news, social media, toxic conversations, constant comparison, constant outrage, constant noise. These things are not harmless entertainment. They shape how you think. And what shapes how you think shapes how you live. That's why the first step in self-improvement is guarding your mind like your future depends on it, because it does. Stop beginning your day by checking your phone and letting the world pour nonsense into your brain before you've even chosen who you want to be. Start your day with something that builds you. Read 10 pages of a good book. Listen to something that strengthens you instead of draining you. Write down your goals. Write down what you're grateful for. Write down what you're refusing to tolerate anymore. Do something that trains your mindset before the world has a chance to train it for you. And don't do it once and call it a new identity. Do it every day. Because what you do daily shapes you more than what you do occasionally. 10 pages today won't change your life by tonight. But 10 pages every day for a year becomes 3,650 pages of wisdom, perspective, and better thinking. That is the difference between staying stuck and breaking through. But reading alone isn't enough. Learning without action is just another way to delay your life. A lot of people love to consume motivation because it feels productive, but they never apply anything. They watch videos, save quotes, highlight passages, and still keep repeating the same patterns. That isn't self-improvement. That is procrastination dressed up as progress. Real growth happens when you take what you learn and use it. When you read something powerful, don't just think. Ask yourself, how does this change what you do today? How does this change the conversation you've been avoiding, the boundary you've been delaying, the habit that's been quietly destroying you? Then act, even if the action is small. Especially if it's small, because small actions repeated daily become a new life. And when you live this way, something incredible starts to happen. Negative thinking begins to lose its grip on you. You stop living inside problems and start looking for solutions. You stop drowning in overthinking and start moving. You stop hunting for excuses and start spotting opportunities. Not because life becomes easy, but because your mind becomes trained. It stops accepting negativity as normal. It starts demanding more from you, and that demand becomes your upgrade. But understand the catch. This is not a one-time transformation. You don't wake up one morning, decide you're done with negative thinking, and expect it to vanish forever. Negative thoughts will always try to creep back in. Fear will always try to stop you right before you grow. Doubt will always whisper when you're about to step into something bigger. That is exactly why self-improvement has to be daily. It's how you fight back. It's how you stay in control. And if you're thinking, but what if you miss a day? Listen carefully. Missing one day won't ruin you. letting that one day turn into a pattern will. That's where people collapse. They don't fail because they stumble. They fail because they decide the stumble means they're done. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. You don't have to get it right every time. But you do have to get back up every time. Because self-improvement isn't something you do when life is easy. It's something you do so life doesn't break you when it gets hard. It's something you do to make sure no setback, no failure, no disappointment drags you back into the person you used to be. Once you commit to this path, you start seeing yourself differently. You start expecting more from yourself. And when you expect more from yourself, life starts giving you more. Not because life is generous, but because you show up like someone who won't collapse at the first sign of resistance. And it all begins with one decision. The decision to stop waiting. The decision to stop making excuses. The decision to improve yourself every single day, no matter what. Because the moment you make that decision, you take your power back. The moment you make that decision, negative thinking starts to die. And the moment you make that decision, your entire life starts to change. Chapter 2. Detach from past failures and regrets. Your past does not define you unless you decide it does. And that decision is happening every time you keep dragging yesterday into today. Too many adults wake up and walk straight into the same invisible prison. Old mistakes, missed chances, painful memories, and failures they can't stop replaying. They carry it like a heavy chain strapped to their back. Then they wonder why they feel tired before the day even begins. They wonder why they feel stuck, why they keep repeating the same patterns, why progress feels impossible even when they're working hard. But here is the truth that changes everything. It is not your past that is holding you back. It is your attachment to it. It is your refusal to release what already happened. It is your choice to keep reliving what should have been put down a long time ago. You cannot change what has already happened. No amount of overthinking will rewrite it. No amount of analyzing will undo it. No amount of punishing yourself will make it cleaner, fairer, or easier to accept. It is done. The past is closed. You cannot go back. But you can go forward, and that is exactly where your power lives. The moment you stop replaying your failures like a movie you can't turn off, the moment you stop feeding your regrets with your attention, that is the moment you begin to live again. That is the moment you start winning again. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you finally stop bleeding energy into a place that cannot give you anything back. And yes, the mind will argue with you. It will say, "But you made too many mistakes." It will remind you of the time you wasted, the people you hurt, the opportunities you ruined, the goals you failed to reach even though you cared deeply. Some of that may be true, but ask yourself like an adult who is tired of self-sabotage. Is holding on to guilt fixing anything? Is dragging shame into every morning making you wiser? Is spending another day, another week, another year crawling through old memories making you stronger? No, it is only stealing more time. It is only draining more energy. It is only keeping you trapped in a chapter of your life you do not live in anymore. You need to understand this with complete clarity. Failure is not the enemy. Mistakes are not the real problem. What matters is what you do after them. Every person you admire has failed. Every person who built something meaningful has had moments they wish they could erase. The difference is not that they had a cleaner story. The difference is they refused to let the worst moment become the permanent label. They learned, they adjusted, and they moved on. That is the adult move. That is what growth looks like when it stops being an idea and becomes a decision. Because there are people who spend their whole lives trapped by something that happened years ago. They let one collapse define their entire identity. They tell themselves, "I'm not good enough because I failed before." They stop trying because they assume their past predicts their future. They treat yesterday like a prophecy. But listen closely. Your past is only a teacher. It is not your identity. The only way it has power over you is if you keep giving it power. And most people give their past power in the same predictable ways. They replay it over and over in their mind. They talk about it like it still runs their life today. They keep reopening wounds that should have already healed. And they keep reminding themselves of things that are no longer relevant to who they are becoming. If you failed before, good. That means you tried. That means you stepped into the arena instead of staying safe on the sidelines. That means you took a risk, and risk is the price of a real life. But if you keep trying, if you keep moving forward, you will eventually succeed. And the only thing that can stop that process is your obsession with what didn't work before. Think about how absurd it would be to drive a car while staring into the rearview mirror the entire time. You would crash, not because the road ahead is impossible, but because your attention is in the wrong direction. And that is exactly what people do with their lives. They keep looking back. They keep focusing on what's behind them instead of what's in front of them. Then they wonder why they are not making progress. If you want your life to change, you have to begin acting like your future is more important than your past. Because it is. What's ahead of you matters more than what is behind you. The only thing you should take from your past is the lesson. That's it. Not the pain. Not the regret. Not the shame. Just the lesson. Learn it, write it into your character, and let the rest go. And yes, it won't always feel easy. Sometimes the past feels like it has a grip on you. Like it can pull you back with one thought, but that grip is an illusion. The only rope tying you to it is your own thinking, and the best news you can hear is that your thinking can be trained. You can reshape your attention like you reshape a muscle. Every time you catch yourself looping an old failure, stop and redirect. Every time regret creeps in, remind yourself that you are not that person anymore. And even if you share the same name, you do not share the same mind. Every time doubt tries to drag you back into old disappointment, answer it with action. Answer it with forward movement. Answer it with the quiet certainty that you are building something new. You owe it to yourself to give your future the energy you have been wasting on your past. You owe it to yourself to stop looking back and start looking ahead. You owe it to yourself to detach from everything that has been holding you down, because the moment you do, you will feel something undeniable. You will feel lighter. You will feel stronger. You will realize the only thing that was ever truly stopping you was the belief that you couldn't move on. But now you know better. Now you see the mechanism. The past only has power if you allow it to. And from this moment forward, you are taking that power back. Chapter 3. Stop comparing yourself to others. There is no faster way to destroy your confidence, kill your motivation, and rob yourself of joy than comparing your life to someone else's life. And yet, this is exactly what so many adults do every single day, often without even realizing it. You wake up, your mind is still foggy, your body is still tired, and before you've even taken control of your day, you look at someone else's success, someone else's achievements, someone else's highlight reel. Then, like a reflex, you turn it into a verdict about yourself. You tell yourself you are behind. You tell yourself you are failing. You tell yourself you are not enough. But here is what you need to understand if you want to regain your peace and your power. The only person you should ever compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. That's it. Because the truth is, no two people have the same journey. No two people start from the same place. No two people carry the same wounds, the same responsibilities, the same childhood, the same resources, or the same invisible battles. And yet you can still fall into the trap of measuring your progress against someone else's story, someone else's timeline, someone else's curated surface. When you do that, you don't motivate yourself. You poison yourself. You set yourself up for misery because you're trying to grade your life using someone else's exam. You have to stop looking sideways and start looking forward. You have to stop watching what other people are doing and start building what you are doing. Because when you compare yourself to others, you are not even comparing reality. You are comparing what they choose to show. You see someone winning, but you don't see the years they spent lost, the humiliations they swallowed, the private sacrifices they made, and the moments they nearly gave up. You see someone succeeding, but you don't see the failures that shaped them, the doors that slammed in their face, the nights they sat with fear and doubt, wondering if anything would ever change. You see someone looking confident, but you don't see the conversations they had with themselves, when they felt small, when they felt insecure, when they felt like an imposter. And meanwhile, you look at yourself with full access to your own insecurities, your own stress, your own challenges, your own unfinished work. You compare their best angle to your worst moment, and then you conclude you are less. That conclusion is not truth. It is distorted thinking. It is the mind playing a cruel game with your self-worth. You are not less. You are simply at a different stage of the journey. Think about something simple and honest. When you plant a seed, you don't stand over the soil every day furious that it isn't a tree yet. You understand growth takes time. You understand that the most important growth happens below the surface before it ever becomes visible. Roots form in darkness. Strength is built where no one can applaud it. But when it comes to life, adults forget this. You look at someone else in full bloom and you get angry that you are still in the early season. You forget that your time will come if you stay committed, if you keep pushing, if you keep going even when you don't feel like it. The real danger is that comparison makes you feel like what you're doing is not enough. It makes you doubt the value of your effort. It makes you rush a process that was never meant to be rushed. And when you rush, you make mistakes. When you rush, you lose focus. When you rush, you lose patience with your own journey. That is how people quit. Not because they weren't capable, not because they weren't good enough, but because they convinced themselves they should be further ahead by now. And that belief becomes a weight they can't carry. If you want to grow into the kind of adult who is steady, disciplined, and emotionally strong, you have to train your mind to stay in your own lane. You have to remind yourself daily that your path is your path, and it does not have to look like anyone else's. Some people succeed quickly, others take longer. Some people struggle hard at the beginning, then take off later. Others grow steadily over time without dramatic breakthroughs. Some people start with support, money, connections, or confidence. Others have to fight for every opportunity, learn everything the hard way, and rebuild themselves from the ground up. And here is the part that should relieve you. None of that changes what your job is. Your job is not to keep up with someone else's timeline. Your job is to keep moving. Because what determines where you end up is not someone else's speed. It is your own effort, your own discipline, your own mindset. So, instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were last week, last month, last year. That is the only comparison that matters. Are you better than you were before? Are you growing? Are you improving? If the answer is yes, you are on the right track, even if it feels slow, even if you still have a long way to go. And if the answer is no, then it is time to step it up, not because someone else is ahead, but because you owe it to yourself to become stronger, clearer, and more consistent. Stop measuring your success using someone else's journey. Stop feeling bad about your progress just because someone else seems further along. Stop letting other people's success make you feel like you're failing, because you're not. You are on your own timeline, and your only job is to keep going, keep growing, keep improving, and trust that as long as you are doing that, you are exactly where you need to be. There will always be someone ahead of you. There will always be someone who seems to have it easier. Someone who moves faster. Someone who gets results sooner. But that does not mean you are losing. That does not mean you are not enough. That does not mean you should doubt yourself. It only means their journey is different, and that is okay. Because at the end of the day, success is not about being better than someone else. It is about becoming the best version of yourself. And the moment you truly understand that, you stop wasting your time comparing, and you start focusing on what actually changes your life. Your own growth, your own progress, your own steady climb forward. Chapter 4. Make a decision and stand by it. There comes a time in your life when you have to make a decision, a real decision. Not a passing thought you entertain on a tired commute. Not an idea you repeat to yourself when motivation is high, but a firm line you draw in the sand that says, this is it, this is what you are doing, and you are going all in. And when you finally do that, everything starts to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you stop living like your life is optional. The problem is, most people never truly decide. They hesitate, they second guess. They tell themselves maybe later, or they will wait for the right time. But the right time never comes because they never commit. They never say, no matter what happens, you are sticking to this. If you want to change your life, if you want to succeed, if you want to move forward, you have to learn the power of making a decision and standing by it. Not for a week when it feels exciting, not for a month when the results are still new, but until you get the outcome you said you wanted. That is what separates the people who win from the people who stay stuck. The ones who win are the ones who decide and never look back. They do not entertain doubt like it is a roommate. They do not waste time wondering if they made the right choice. They move forward with full commitment, full focus, and the belief that they will make it work, even if they have to learn along the way, even if they have to rebuild themselves in the process. Most people live in a constant state of indecision. You have seen it in your own life, if you are honest. You start something, you feel a spark, and then the moment it gets tough, you question yourself. Fear creeps in quietly. Your mind starts rehearsing every way it could go wrong. You imagine embarrassment, failure, disappointment, wasted time, wasted money, and before you know it, you quit. Not because you could not do it, not because you were not capable. You quit because you never truly committed in the first place. You were still holding on to an exit plan. You were still keeping one foot out the door, telling yourself you were being realistic when what you were really doing was protecting your comfort. But that is not how success works. That is not how a great life is built. You cannot build something strong with a half-committed mind. You cannot expect great results while secretly planning your escape the moment it becomes inconvenient. You have to be all in. Think about what happens the moment you make a real decision. Your focus sharpens, your energy shifts. You stop looking for distractions and you start looking for solutions. You stop waiting for things to happen and you start making things happen. You stop wasting time asking yourself if you can do it, and you start proving to yourself that you can. You move differently. You speak differently. You stop negotiating with your own goals like they are optional. But none of that happens until you decide, until you say, "This is what you want," and you will not stop until you get it. Indecision is the enemy of progress. Indecision keeps you stuck. Indecision makes you doubt yourself. Indecision wastes your time. And worst of all, indecision sets you up for a life of regret. Because one day you will look back and realize the truth you avoided for years. All the things you could have done, the goals you could have achieved, the dreams you could have lived, never happened because you never fully decided to go after them. You cannot build a strong life on weak decisions. You cannot expect a great future from a mind that keeps folding under pressure. You have to decide what you want, and you have to commit to it like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Your future depends on it. Your success depends on it. Your happiness depends on it. If you have responsibilities, a family, a career, a body that is getting older, bills that do not pause, and a mind that is tired of repeating the same year over and over, then you already know this is not a motivational poster. This is survival. This is the difference between waking up with direction and waking up with dread. Look at the people who have made it to the top. Athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, artists. They all have one thing in common. They made a decision and they did not back down. They did not let fear stop them. They did not let obstacles shake them. They did not let failure define them. They stayed the course. They adjusted when needed. Because smart people adapt, but they did not change the decision itself. They said they were doing this, and they followed through. That is why they succeeded. Now you have to ask yourself the question that changes everything. What are you still undecided about? What have you been hesitating on? What have you been starting and stopping again and again? Telling yourself you are waiting for clarity, when the real issue is that you are avoiding commitment, because that is what is holding you back. That is what is keeping you from reaching your full potential. And until you decide, truly decide, you will stay exactly where you are. Not because life is against you, but because you refuse to take the wheel. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect before you commit. Stop thinking you need more time, more information, more confidence. You do not. What you need is to make a decision and start. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start today. And once you start, do not stop. Do not let doubt pull you back. Do not let fear make you hesitate. Move forward with full commitment, with full belief, with the absolute certainty that no matter how long it takes, no matter what obstacles come your way, you are going to see it through. You have to be stronger than your excuses. You have to be more committed to your goals than your fears. You have to decide that you are done living the same way, done making the same mistakes, done holding yourself back. And when you finally make that decision and stand by it, everything in your life starts to change. Because decisions shape destiny. And the moment you make a real one, you do not stay the same person you were before. Chapter 5. Replace emotional reactions with thoughtful responses. There will always be moments that test you. A situation that presses the exact button you thought you outgrew. A person who says the wrong thing at the wrong time. A disappointment that hits your confidence like a sudden blow. And in that moment, you only have two choices. You can react emotionally, let anger take the wheel. Let frustration cloud your judgment. Let fear decide your next move. Or you can take control and respond with thoughtfulness, with clarity, with strength. One path keeps you stuck. The other moves you forward. Most adults don't realize how much their emotional reactions are controlling their lives. They believe they are making choices, but what they are really doing is obeying impulses. Something happens and they react before they think. Someone says something negative and they let it poison the entire day. Then they carry that mood home, and the people who love them feel it too. They receive bad news, and their mind spirals straight into hopelessness. As if one moment defines the whole future. They feel fear, and instead of moving through it, they retreat, delay, give up, or settle. This is how most people live. Always reacting. Always letting emotions sit in the driver's seat. And the result is regret, because emotional reactions make you say things you don't mean, do things you wish you hadn't done, and choose things that do not serve the future you claim to want. But the people who win in life, the people who stay in control, do not operate that way. They do not let emotions dictate their decisions. They do not let temporary feelings shape permanent outcomes. They train themselves to pause, to think, to act with wisdom instead of impulse. Because they understand something that changes everything. Emotions are temporary, but the consequences of reacting emotionally can last a lifetime. Think about it. How many times have you spoken out of anger and regretted it later? Not because you were wrong to feel hurt, but because you chose the worst way to express it. How many times have you made a decision based on fear and later realized fear was not protecting you, it was shrinking you? How many times have you let frustration push you to quit, only to look back and wish you had stayed steady long enough for the storm to pass? That is what emotional reactions do. They cloud your judgment. They make small problems feel bigger than they are. They pull you into choices that don't match your long-term goals, your values, or the person you are trying to become. So you have to start catching yourself in the exact moment it begins. The moment you feel anger rising. The moment frustration starts creeping in. The moment fear makes you want to run, hide, or lash out. Pause. Don't react. Don't say the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't let emotions hijack your thinking. Take a breath. Step back internally. Even if you cannot step back physically, give yourself a moment to process before you act. Because once you do that, something powerful happens. You take back control. You stop being pushed around by your mood, and you start responding with intention. And that is when you become dangerous in the best way possible. Because when you are in control of yourself, nothing and no one can manipulate you. Most people don't even try to control their emotions. They hide behind excuses like, "That's just how I am," or "I can't help it." But that is not true. You can train yourself. You can build the habit of pausing, thinking, and responding with wisdom. It is a skill. And like any skill, the more you practice it, the better you get. The more you catch yourself before reacting, the more you build the ability to handle pressure, to stay calm, to think clearly, no matter what is happening around you. And life will test this, because life is unpredictable. You will face problems. You will encounter people who try to bring you down. You will deal with situations that don't go your way. You will have mornings where work feels heavy, evenings where family responsibilities pile up, and weeks where your patience is thin because you're carrying too much and sleeping too little. If you are always reacting emotionally, you will always feel out of control. You will always be at the mercy of your feelings. But if you train yourself to respond thoughtfully, you become unshakable. You become the person who stays calm in the storm, who makes smart decisions under pressure, who doesn't let temporary emotions ruin long-term goals. Imagine how different your life would be if you mastered this. Imagine the respect you would earn if people knew they couldn't push your buttons, that you don't break under pressure, that you don't let small things control you. Imagine the peace you would feel if you weren't constantly upset by things that won't matter in a year or even a month. Imagine the success you would build if instead of reacting emotionally, you responded with strategy, with intelligence, with power. This is what separates average people from high achievers. The average person reacts. They get emotional, they take things personally. They waste time and energy on what doesn't matter. But the high achiever, the person who is going places, thinks before acting. They don't let small setbacks break them. They don't let negative people shake them. They stay focused. They stay in control. And because of that, they always have the advantage. So, here is your challenge. Starting today, catch yourself before you react. When something upsets you, when fear creeps in, pause. When frustration builds up, pause. Give yourself a moment to think before you speak, before you act, before you decide. Because that one habit, that one change in how you handle moments of pressure can transform your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. The people who master this skill don't just achieve more. They live better. They build better relationships. They create better opportunities. They gain better control over their future because they are no longer prisoners of their emotions. They don't react. They respond. And that changes everything. Chapter 6. Condition your mind for high-performance thinking. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever have, and whether you admit it or not, it is already deciding the quality of your life. It determines your success and your failures, your confidence and your self-doubt, your courage and your hesitation. The way you think shapes the way you live. And the real problem is that most adults never learn to train that tool. They never condition their thinking for success. They let their thoughts run wild, filled with negativity, doubt, and fear. And then they act surprised when they feel stuck, when they keep hitting the same ceiling, when they cannot reach the next level in their career, their relationships, their health, their purpose. It is not because they are incapable. It is because they never took control of their own mind. They never built the habits that create high-performance thinking. High-performance thinking is not something you are born with. It is not luck. It is not some rare natural gift that only a few people get to have. It is a habit. It is a mindset you build every single day. And if you do not train your mind, the world will train it for you. The negativity around you will condition you. The fear will condition you. The doubt will condition you. And before you realize it, you are operating at a fraction of your potential, functioning like a person who is always tired, always behind, always bracing for the worst, even when nothing is actually happening. That is what happens when you do not take ownership of your thoughts. Every day you wake up, you either take command of your mind or you hand it over to whatever is loudest around you. You have to decide what kind of thoughts you will allow in, because your mind is like a garden. If you do not take care of it, if you do not remove the weeds, negativity will grow on its own. It does not need your permission. It only needs your inattention. And the only way to stop it is to actively condition your mind for success, for resilience, for confidence, for power. That conditioning starts with a habit most people avoid because it feels uncomfortable. Paying attention to what is already happening inside your head. Are your thoughts empowering you or holding you back? Are they making you stronger or weaker? Are they building your future or quietly poisoning it? Most people do not even realize how negative their thinking is, because they have never stopped to examine it. They just accept whatever thought appears, as if every thought is truth. But if you want to perform at a high level in life, you cannot afford to live that way. You have to challenge those thoughts. You have to rewire your thinking, because your thoughts are shaping your future whether you like it or not. The way you think affects the way you feel. The way you feel affects the way you act, and the way you act determines the results you get. If your mind is filled with doubt, you hesitate, you delay, you overthink. You watch opportunities pass while you get ready. If your mind is filled with fear, you avoid action, or you take action in a half-hearted way that guarantees you never get proof of your strength. If your mind is filled with negativity, you sabotage your own success. Not always dramatically, but subtly, through small choices that keep you small. But if your mind is trained for high performance, if it is conditioned for confidence, resilience, and discipline, you become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easy, but because your internal response becomes strong. This is why successful people think differently. Not because they are smarter, not because they are luckier, but because they trained themselves to think at a higher level. They built mental toughness. They created the daily habit of high-performance thinking. And because of that, they act differently. They move differently. They do not waste time feeding negative thoughts. They do not let fear make decisions for them. They do not let setbacks break them. They keep going. They keep pushing. They keep winning, not in a perfect, dramatic way, but in the quiet way that matters. They keep showing up with control. You have to start building this mindset now. Not when things calm down, not when you have more time, not when life stops demanding so much from you. If you are over 30, you already know life will not pause, so you can become ready. You train in the middle of the responsibilities. You train in the middle of the pressure. You train in the middle of the noise. You start by stopping the old habits of negative thinking that have been holding you back for years. You stop entertaining thoughts that weaken you. You stop letting your inner voice speak to you in a way you would never speak to someone you love. And here is the practical discipline. Every time you catch yourself thinking something that does not serve you, you replace it with something that does, not with fake positivity, with a stronger truth. Every time fear creeps in, you remind yourself that you are capable. Every time doubt shows up, you remind yourself that you have overcome challenges before. Every time negativity tries to take over, you shift your focus to what you can do, what you can control, what you can build. Most people do not do this because it takes effort. It takes attention. It takes repetition. It is easier to let your thoughts control you. It is easier to stay in the cycle of doubt and fear and call it realism. But easy will not get you anywhere. Easy keeps you exactly where you are, with the same problems, the same excuses, the same frustration. If you want to achieve more, if you want to be better, if you want to reach your highest potential, you have to do the work. You have to build the habit of thinking like a high performer, because once you do, everything changes. Imagine what your life would look like if you had complete control over your thoughts. Imagine how much more you could accomplish if you never let doubt slow you down. Imagine how powerful you would be if you trained your mind to focus on solutions instead of problems, on possibilities instead of limitations. That is what high-performance thinking does. It turns you into a person who can handle anything, a person who does not break under pressure, a person who moves with confidence, who acts with purpose, who achieves what others only dream about. And understand this clearly. This is not about motivation. Motivation comes and goes. This is about discipline. This is about rewiring your brain for success so thoroughly that success is no longer a question you ask. It becomes a certainty you build. You will not have to wonder if you are going to win. You will know because you trained your mind to operate at the highest level, and once you do that, nothing can stop you. Chapter 7. Reconstruct your identity around strength, not weakness. There comes a point in your life when you have to decide who you really are, and that decision cannot be outsourced. Not to the world, not to your past mistakes, not to the quiet voice of doubt that tries to speak like truth when you are tired. Because if you let weakness define you, if you let failure and insecurity become the lens you see yourself through, you will never break free from the cycle of limitation. You will stay stuck. You will keep playing small. You will keep hesitating at the edge of your own potential. And the most dangerous part is this: you will keep proving yourself right. When you believe you are weak, you start acting weak. When you believe you are not capable, you stop trying before you even begin. Then life hands you the predictable result of that hesitation, and you look at it like evidence and say, "See, this is exactly what you expected." That is how people trap themselves inside a life they do not even want, not with one dramatic failure, but with 1,000 quiet agreements with a false identity. But you do not have to stay there. You can decide right now that from this moment forward, your identity will be built on your strength, not your fears, not your doubts, not your failures. Only your strength. Most people never take the time to decide who they are. They accept whatever identity has been handed to them by family, by teachers, by society, by a painful season they never fully processed. Someone calls you lazy, and that word follows you for years. Someone implies you are not smart, and you start carrying that label like it is medical truth. You fail once, maybe in a relationship, maybe in a career move, maybe in a moment you regret, and suddenly you start describing yourself as a failure, as if one event has the authority to name your entire life. That is how most people live, collecting labels and wearing them until they forget they can take them off. But you cannot afford to think like that, because the way you see yourself determines everything. It determines how you act at work when pressure hits. It determines whether you speak up or stay silent. It determines whether you take risks or stay comfortable. It determines what opportunities you chase, what challenges you face, what goals you even believe you are allowed to reach. Your identity is the foundation of your success or your downfall. And if you want to rise, you have to reconstruct that foundation the right way. Strength is not about never failing. It is not about being fearless. It is not about having all the answers. Strength is resilience. Strength is the ability to take a hit and still stand up. Strength is knowing that no matter what happens, you will get back up. It is proving to yourself that you can handle life even when it is hard, even when it hurts, even when you feel like quitting. That is strength. That is the identity you need to build. But here is the key that separates adults who transform from adults who remain trapped. No one is going to give you that identity. No one is going to show up and announce that you are strong now. No one is going to hand you confidence, discipline, or self-belief like a gift. Those are not gifts. They are construction materials, and you build them brick by brick every single day through what you choose to believe, what you choose to say to yourself, and what you choose to do when no one is watching. Start with how you talk to yourself, because your internal language is shaping your identity more than you realize. Pay attention to the words you use in your own mind. Do you constantly repeat that you are not good enough, that you always mess things up, that you never get it right, that you are behind, that you will never succeed? Or do you speak to yourself with strength, with clarity, with a steady sense of capability? Do you tell yourself that you are strong, that you are able, that you can handle whatever comes your way? Because if you have been feeding yourself negative beliefs, it is time to stop. It is time to tear down the identity that has been holding you back and build a new one, deliberately, on purpose. Like a person who has decided they are done living in a smaller version of their own life. Now picture the strongest version of you. Not the perfect version, not the version that never struggles. The strongest version is the one who does not give up, the one who keeps moving when fear shows up, the one who stands tall when life gets heavy, the one who does the hard thing without needing applause. That version of you is not a distant dream. That version already exists inside you right now. It is not waiting for permission, it is waiting for leadership. And leadership begins when you start acting like that person today. Because identity is not something you wait for. Identity is something you create. You do not become strong by hoping strength appears one morning. You become strong by making strong choices, thinking strong thoughts, and taking strong actions. And the more you do that, the more your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to change and start seeing yourself as someone who is already changing. This is where the real test arrives. There will be moments when the old version of you tries to pull you back. Doubt will creep in. Fear will try to take the wheel. Old habits will feel familiar, and the familiar will try to masquerade as safe. You will feel the pull to return to what is comfortable, even if what is comfortable is slowly destroying your life. That is the moment you decide. Will you stay the same, or will you fight for the identity you want? Because make no mistake, it is a fight. Your mind will try to drag you back into what it knows, but you have to stand your ground. You have to remind yourself that you are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your fears. You are not the worst thing you have done. And you are not the worst thing that has been said about you. You are what you decide to be today. Start proving your new identity to yourself, not with words but with actions. You do not need to convince anyone else. You only need to convince you. If you say you are strong, then act strong. If you say you are disciplined, then keep your promises to yourself, especially the small ones. If you say you are confident, then move like it. Speak like it. Carry yourself like it. Not because you are pretending, but because you are training your mind to recognize the new standard. Every time you follow through, you reinforce your identity. You are telling your mind, this is who you are now. And the more you repeat it through action, the more real it becomes. You do not have to be perfect to build a strong identity. You have to be consistent. Every small choice you make is either reinforcing weakness or reinforcing strength. Every time you push past fear, every time you refuse to quit, every time you take one more step when you want to stop, you are proving to yourself that you are strong. And once you start seeing yourself that way, everything changes. You stop waiting for permission. You stop holding yourself back. You move differently. You think differently. You become the kind of person who makes things happen, not because life becomes easier, but because you become sturdier. So decide, right now, in this moment, who you are. Decide that from this day forward, your identity is built on strength. No more doubting yourself as a lifestyle. No more carrying old labels like they are permanent. No more acting like someone you do not want to be. From now on, you stand tall. You move with steady confidence. You take control of your life one choice at a time. Because when you reconstruct your identity around strength, nothing can break you. Nothing can stop you. And that is when you become truly unshakable. Chapter 8. Avoid people who drain your energy. There comes a moment in your life when the question stops being what you want to do and becomes who you are willing to keep around you while you do it. Because whether you admit it or not, the people closest to you are shaping your mindset, your emotional temperature, and the direction your future quietly takes. Some people add to your life. They stretch you. They challenge you. They make you sharper, calmer, braver. And then there are the others. The ones who leave you feeling heavy after every conversation. The ones who bring nothing but negativity. The ones who pull you down every chance they get. Not always with obvious insults, but with a slow drip of doubt, complaints, sarcasm, and discouragement. These are the people you cannot afford to keep if you want to reach your full potential, because you cannot build a stronger life while standing in a room that keeps draining your strength. Understand this clearly. Some people will never support your growth. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because your progress exposes their comfort. They are settled in the version of life they have accepted. And the moment you start changing, the moment you start working on yourself, they feel threatened. They watch you put in effort, make sacrifices, push beyond what they ever dared to try. And instead of being inspired, they feel insecure. And insecurity has a predictable habit. It tries to pull you back down to a level that feels safe. So they make fun of your goals. They call your standards unrealistic. They tell you it is impossible. They remind you of every time you failed before. They discourage you, not always loudly, sometimes with a smile, sometimes disguised as being realistic, sometimes delivered as a joke that still lands like a blade. And if you are not careful, if you are not strong, you will start listening. You will start doubting yourself. You will start believing that maybe they are right. That is how dreams die. Not because you failed, but because you kept the wrong people close enough to whisper in your ear until your confidence collapsed from the inside. Your energy is everything. The way you feel, the way you think, the way you act, the way you respond under pressure, all of it is shaped by your energy. And if you allow the wrong people to drain you, if you let them fill your mind with negativity, self-doubt, and excuses, you will never break free. You will stay stuck. You will carry their weight on your shoulders. And before you realize it, you will move slower, think smaller, give up easier. Not because you wanted to, but because you absorbed the limitations they live by, and you started mistaking their fear for truth. You cannot let that happen. You cannot allow toxic people to rob you of your potential. Sometimes the hardest thing you will ever do is walk away from people you once cared about. Friends, co-workers, even family members, people who have been part of your life for years. But you have to ask yourself a question that an adult cannot avoid forever. Are these people pushing you forward or holding you back, lifting you up or draining you dry? Because here is the truth you need to face without apology. Just because someone has been in your life for a long time does not mean they deserve a place in your future. Loyalty should never come at the cost of your growth. Some people are always complaining, always blaming, always talking about what is wrong with the world. And the more time you spend around them, the more their negativity seeps into you. At first, you tell yourself you are just listening, just being supportive, just being a good friend. But over time, you start picking up their habits. You start focusing on problems instead of solutions. You start seeing obstacles instead of opportunities. You start making excuses instead of taking action. And then one day you look up and realize you are living the same loop they are living. Stuck, frustrated, pointing fingers at everything except the choices that could actually change your life. That is what happens when you surround yourself with people who drain your energy. So you need to become ruthless about who you let into your circle. Not cruel, not arrogant. Ruthless in the sense of being clear, disciplined, and protective. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves to be in your space, to hear your ideas, to sit close to your future, to be part of your journey. You need people who challenge you, who push you, who inspire you to be better. People who celebrate your wins instead of downplaying them. People who encourage your growth instead of mocking it. People who make you feel stronger, not weaker. Those are the people who deserve a place in your life. Anyone else, you need to distance yourself. And yes, it is not always easy. It is not easy to cut ties with people you have known for years. It is not easy to say no to those who were part of your past. But you have to understand something. Every grown adult eventually learns the hard way. Your future is more important than your past. And if you want to get where you are going, you cannot afford to carry dead weight. Start paying attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you feel motivated, energized, clearer about your goals? Or do you feel drained, frustrated, full of doubt? That feeling is your answer. The wrong people will drain you in ways you do not even notice at first. They do not have to say anything directly negative. They can simply bring an energy that pulls you down. And over time, that energy can destroy your motivation, your confidence, and your belief in yourself. That is why you have to make a change now. This is not about being cruel. This is not about thinking you are better than anyone else. This is about protecting your energy. This is about understanding that your time, your focus, your mental state are your most valuable assets. If you spend them on the wrong people, you will have nothing left for yourself. You will not have the fuel to chase your goals, to build the life you want, to become the person you are meant to be. And some people will try to make you feel guilty for distancing yourself. They will say you have changed. They will say you are selfish. And here is the part you need to accept with calm strength. They are right. You have changed. You are being selfish with your energy, with your time, with your future. And that is exactly how it should be. Because the only people who get upset when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. So, right now, you need to make a choice. Are you going to keep allowing toxic people to drain you? Are you going to keep letting their negativity control your mindset, your energy, your life? Or are you going to take control? Surround yourself with people who lift you up and protect your energy like your success depends on it. Because it does. The people around you are either fueling your fire or putting it out. And if you want to win, if you want to grow, if you want to become the person you know you can be, you need to choose wisely. Your future depends on it. Chapter 9. Keep moving forward no matter what. Life does not follow the script you write in your head. It rarely gives you a clean timeline, a straight road, or a fair sequence of rewards. The road to anything meaningful is full of sharp turns, hidden bumps, and detours you never agreed to. There will be seasons when things do not go your way, when obstacles feel oversized, when challenges feel personal, and when the odds look stacked like someone else wrote the rules. And in those exact moments, your most important job is not to feel motivated. Your job is to keep moving forward anyway. Because discouragement is easy when reality refuses to match your expectations. You can work hard, stay up late, sacrifice comfort, and still watch things fall apart. You can do everything right and still meet rejection, delays, and failure after failure. That is when the voice inside you starts turning on you. You begin doubting your ability. You question whether the effort was worth it. You start wondering if the universe is against you, if you are wasting your time, if you should stop before you embarrass yourself again. And in that state, quitting doesn't look like weakness. It looks like relief. It looks like peace. It looks like putting down a weight you are tired of carrying. But that is exactly why quitting is so dangerous. Because the temptation to stop usually shows up right before you are forced to grow into the person who can actually win. Those moments of struggle and doubt are not proof that you are failing. They are proof that you have reached the part of the path that requires more than talent and effort. It requires endurance. It requires mental toughness. It requires the ability to keep moving forward when you do not feel strong, when you do not feel certain, and when you do not feel rewarded. Understand this clearly. Success is not about avoiding failure. It is not about having a smooth life. It is not about never encountering setbacks. Nobody has a straight path. Everyone who has ever built something real has faced obstacles that tested their confidence and their identity. What separates people who succeed from people who stay stuck is not intelligence, luck, or perfect timing. It is the ability to keep moving forward in the face of adversity. You cannot let the tough times stop you. You have to get back up again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. Because resilience is not a personality trait you either have or don't have. It is a muscle you build through repetition. Think about the people in history who changed the world, who made an impact, who accomplished something that outlived them. Do you think their lives were smooth? Do you think they were protected from criticism, rejection, disappointment, and failure? No, they were hit with all of it. The difference is they did not let any of it become the final word. They did not quit the first time things got hard. They did not throw in the towel when the world told them they couldn't do it. They kept going even when every part of them wanted to stop. That is why they succeeded. Their greatness did not come from comfort. It came from struggle. The greatest achievements in life are born in moments when you feel stretched beyond your normal limits, when you feel like you are running on empty, when you feel like you have nothing left, and yet you take one more step. That step is where your character forms. That step is where your future gets built. When you face another setback, life is not humiliating you. Life is giving you another chance to prove yourself. It is another opportunity to show what you are made of. Not in the highlights, but in the hard parts. And yes, it is not easy. Anyone can say, keep moving forward, when they are comfortable, when their energy is high, when the path is clear. But when you are in the thick of it, when you are tired, when you feel like you have been trying forever, it can feel impossible. It can feel like you are dragging yourself through mud. This is where you train your mind. This is where you learn to act without permission from your emotions. You build the habit of moving forward even when you do not feel like it. You build the muscle of resilience by choosing effort over escape. And here is the truth that frees you from perfection. You will never feel fully ready. You will never feel like you have it all figured out. You will not always have clarity. You will not always have confidence. That is not a sign you should stop. That is part of the process. You do not need to know exactly how everything will unfold. You do not need to have all the answers today. What you need is to show up day after day and keep moving forward even when the path is unclear, especially when it is unclear. Because progress does not always look like progress. Some days you will feel stuck. Some days it will seem like nothing is changing. Some days you will do the work and still feel behind. But the truth is, every step forward, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. Every day you do not give up matters. Every time you choose to move forward instead of quitting, something is happening inside you. Your discipline is strengthening. Your tolerance for discomfort is expanding. Your mind is becoming tougher. It may not be obvious in the moment, but it is real. And one day you will look back and realize how far you came, not because you were always confident, but because you refused to stop. Success is not a destination you arrive at and then relax forever. Success is a journey that demands persistence. It demands that you show up even when things are hard, even when you doubt yourself, even when you feel afraid, even when you are uncertain, even when the results are not immediate. It is about pushing through the fear and the setbacks and understanding that each step you take is one step closer to your goal. When you are in the middle of a struggle, it is hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it exists. Hard times do not last forever. Tough moments do not get to define you unless you surrender to them. The challenges will pass, and you will come out the other side stronger, smarter, and more capable than you were before. But only if you keep moving forward. So, the next time you face a setback, the next time you want to quit, remember this: the most successful people in the world did not get there by avoiding failure. They did not get there by giving up when things got tough. They got there by staying persistent, staying resilient, and refusing to let failure become their identity. You have that same power inside you. The power to keep going, the power to keep pushing, the power to keep moving forward no matter what. And it starts with one decision. You will not stop. You will take the next step, then the next, then the next. Keep moving forward, and you will be surprised by what becomes possible when quitting is no longer an option. Chapter 10. Decide right now that you will win. There is one common thread that runs through every person who has built something real, something lasting, something worth respecting, no matter their background, their education, or the chaos they started from. And it is not luck, and it is not talent, and it is not perfect timing. It is a decision, not a soft decision made in a good mood, not a polite intention whispered to yourself when life is calm. A committed decision that comes from the center of you, the part that refuses to negotiate with fear. The kind of decision that says, without drama and without excuses, you are going to win. That word can sound aggressive to some people, but what it really means is that you are done living like your future is optional. You are done hoping things will somehow improve while you keep repeating the same patterns. You are done waiting for a rescue that is not coming. People who win do not win by accident. They win because they decide to stop leaving their life up to chance. They decide that success is not a lottery ticket. It is a direction, and once you choose that direction, you start walking even when the road is ugly, even when you are tired, even when you do not feel ready. That is the difference between wishful thinking and a life that actually changes. Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they never fully commit. They hover on the edge of their own potential. They sit on the fence, half wanting the dream, half protecting their comfort. And that uncertainty bleeds into everything they do. Their actions become inconsistent. Their energy becomes scattered. Their progress becomes fragile. When you do not decide, you drift. When you drift long enough, you start calling it fate. But it is not fate. It is avoidance wearing a respectable mask. And the price is always the same. Years disappear, and you wake up older, busier, more responsible, and quietly haunted by the thought that you could have been more if you had chosen sooner. If you are over 30, you already know this pain. You know what it feels like to carry adult responsibilities while also carrying the weight of unrealized potential. You know what it feels like to tell yourself you will start when work calms down, when the kids get older, when the finances stabilize, when you feel more confident, when you finally get a sign. But here is the truth that cuts through all of it. The moment you have been waiting for is not in the future. The moment is now. Not because life is perfect now, but because life will never be perfect. Waiting for the stars to align is not a plan. It is a delay disguised as wisdom. You do not need permission. You do not need validation. You do not need someone to look you in the eyes and confirm what you already know. You are ready now in the only way that matters. You are capable of deciding, and the decision is the doorway. It is the line in the sand. It is the moment you stop bargaining with your own potential. Look at the people you admire, the ones who built the career, transformed their health, overcame an addiction, started the business, wrote the book, rebuilt after divorce, rose after failure. Ask yourself what separates them from the person who keeps talking and never moves. It is not that they never doubted. It is not that they never struggled. It is that they reached a point where success became non-negotiable. They decided they would keep going until it happened. They stopped treating obstacles like verdicts and started treating them like the cost of entry. That is why they look fearless. Not because fear is absent, but because the decision is stronger. And once you make that decision, something shifts inside you. Your focus sharpens. Your energy becomes organized. Your mind stops scattering itself across 1,000 worries and starts locking onto one direction. You begin to notice opportunities you used to ignore because your brain was trained to hunt for reasons it would not work. You start seeing solutions where you used to see problems because your attention is no longer devoted to protecting your excuses. That is what a real decision does. It changes what you look for, and what you look for changes what you find. But do not romanticize it. Winning has a price. The decision to win comes with sacrifices that will test you. It will demand long hours. It will demand discipline on days you would rather disappear. There will be moments when it feels like the world is against you, when the obstacles seem too big, when progress feels slow, when you wonder if you are foolish for trying. There will be days you want to quit, not because you are weak, but because you are human. And that is exactly when the decision matters most. Because when you have decided to win, quitting stops being an option you casually entertain. You do not quit when it gets hard. You adjust, you learn, you rest when you need to, but you do not retreat from your purpose. You push harder, you find a way, you dig deeper. You build a mindset that stays loyal to the goal even when the mood changes. You stop letting distractions steal your future. You stop letting other people's negativity shake your resolve. You stop letting temporary discomfort decide permanent outcomes. This is not a game. This is your life. And if you have decided you will win, then everything from this moment forward must align with that decision. Every choice you make either feeds your future or starves it. Every action you take either builds momentum or keeps you stuck. You cannot say you want a different life while you keep choosing the same behaviors. You cannot say you are committed while you keep protecting what is comfortable. So it is time to stop making excuses. It is time to stop holding back. The distance between you and your dreams is not mainly talent. It is not mainly luck. It is the decision to go after them with full commitment. That decision, made with certainty, changes how you move through the world. You begin to build momentum. And momentum is powerful because it changes your identity. The more you move, the more you believe. The more you believe, the more you move. Slowly, quietly, steadily, success starts to feel inevitable. Not because it is guaranteed, but because you have become the kind of person who does not stop. And this is the truth most people need to hear. Success does not belong to the lucky. Success does not belong to the gifted. Success belongs to the person who keeps going, keeps fighting, and refuses to back down. The only way to fail is to quit. If you do not quit, if you stay committed, if you keep learning and adjusting and showing up, success eventually becomes a matter of time. That is why this chapter is not a motivational speech. It is a demand for clarity. Decide today, with all of your heart and mind, that you are going to win. Let that decision guide your thoughts, your actions, your choices, because your thoughts shape your reality. Your actions follow your thoughts. If you want to succeed, you must start thinking like someone who is already building success, not like someone waiting to be saved. The mind is a tool, and many adults spend decades letting it run on default, letting negative thoughts control the day, letting doubt narrate the story. You do not have to live like that. You can start fresh right now. You can decide to stop feeding the thoughts that shrink you. You can choose to focus on what you can do, not what you cannot. And when doubt creeps in, as it always will, you can replace it with a thought that moves you forward, a thought that supports action, a thought that reinforces the decision you have made. Take a breath, stand tall, step forward with confidence. Not because you feel no fear, but because you are done negotiating with it. The future you want is waiting on the other side of your choices. And it starts with how you choose to think today. If you are ready to take charge, if you are ready to break free from the mental patterns that keep you small, then commit to that change fully. Because when you change your mindset, you change your life. Decide to win. Do not look back.